Well, you can't trust County.
Well, welcome back, baby. Welcome back, creepers, to another Friday episode. I am honestly so intrigued about the conversation that you and I are going to have about this one because,
Ooh,
and don't take
okay.
this the wrong way, baby, but mostly because I think you and I have touched on it a little bit in the past, like maybe on an After Dark or something, but this case deals a lot with the dark web. And I feel like
Mm.
you know more about the dark web than I really do, or like you have more experience, but not with sourcing anything on the dark web.
It's like you just say I'm on
But
what's that old website that got shut down, the Silk Road or something? It
the
was like
sil-
a drug website.
wait, was it called Dream Market?
No, I think it was literally called the Silk Road. I
Okay.
think.
Okay.
Not that I
Because
purchased from it.
I was going to say, well,
Although I did legally once purchase salvia on the internet.
no way.
Yeah,
How'd you do that?
I just
Well, can
ordered
we
it.
share?
I just ordered it,
Oh my
and
God.
and that it was shipped.
Well, interesting, baby. Well, I honestly, I think that it's not Silk Road, but there is a like drug market that does come up in this case, but I think it's called the Dream Market. But
Huh.
anyways, I'm just interested in how you're going to feel about this case specifically because we've talked a lot about that kind of stuff, but like not so in depth and not, I don't think, as like related to an actual case in the past.
Mhm.
But I first stumbled along this case like over the holidays. I was reading a Vice article about it and I was just like, I want to do like it was a very high level overview of like what happened. And I was like, I want to do a deep dive on this case. And when I did, my jaw was, like, on the ground with what I was able to uncover about it, so
Oh my god, you got me excited
I
now.
know, it's very interesting. So, today's case centers around a family that lived in a small town in Cottage Grove, Minnesota, which is about 30 minutes outside of Minneapolis, and it centers around the relationship of a 43-year-old woman named Amy Allwine and her husband, Steven. And the case unravels in 2016 with what starts as a tragedy and then develops into layer upon layer of crazier and crazier circumstances.
Hmm.
Which one of those circumstances, and by the way, I did drop a link in our
Oh,
chat box
totally.
to, and I would maybe just stay on page one where you can get like some photos of Amy and get a
Okay.
vibe for her and Steven. Um, but Creepers will have those up on Reddit like we always do. But one of those kind of crazy circumstances, and I don't think it'll give too much away about the case, but I did just want to touch on it really quick. It involves cryptocurrency. And if you're anything like me, you may have stayed pretty far away from cryptocurrency, or maybe you just feel like it's a little bit over your head. So I did just want to like talk about it for a second, just because it does come up a lot in this case. But I feel like you know a little bit
Interesting.
more about crypto than I do
Well,
too. Is
I
that
don't own
safe
any
to assume?
crypto. No.
You don't oh, no, know about crypto. I feel like you might like, I feel like we've talked about it before.
I mean, I know, like, maybe I probably the same amount as you, I think, like, a top line of it, but I was always disinterested in it because by the time it came across my desk, I was like, "I think everybody knows about this, and if it's already hit, like, a level of saturation in terms of awareness, I don't think it's very valuable to get in now. I would only stand to invest and lose money. The people who got in early are the ones who are gonna clean up, not
Right,
me."
right. I mean, literally my only knowledge of it and, like, why I stayed away from it is I'm like, "I can't see it, baby. I can't hold it, so I don't wanna I don't wanna go there," but it's like that, and then I know about it from The Housewives, of
Well, when I
course,
first moved
but
to LA, my dentist was accepting cryptocurrency.
really?
Yeah, as payment. Like, you could obviously, like, go through your insurance, but, like, any of, like, your co-pays and whatnot, he was like, "We're accepting Bitcoin," and I was like
Incredible.
this was a Beverly Hills dentist too, I was
Yeah.
like, "Alright,
Very LA.
sure."
Um, well, yeah, well, listen, for the purposes of this case, I think it's helpful to just briefly kind of gloss over it if you aren't familiar with how like a Bitcoin or an Ethereum or something works, and how it works in relation to staying under the radar. And then I swear to God, we'll get to the case because that stuff can get a little bit boring. But when you purchase cryptocurrency, it is my understanding that you have to have a wallet, and part of that wallet is a public key, which basically is like your account number with a bunch of characters and numbers. And then you have your private key, which is sort of like your password to authorize transactions. It's, I guess, pretty similar to like an accounting and a routing number sort of
Hmm.
situation. But to have a wallet, most cryptocurrencies will have you provide a physical address to link everything back to. Not all of them do, but most of them do because many of these companies are considered financial service providers and they've got, like federal regulations they have to follow and
Hmm.
compliance laws they have to answer to. But you can trace things back to a real person eventually, even if it's more of like a private key or one of those types of wallets. But they have to have those listed with an address and it has to be a real address.
Interesting.
However, most of the time you can pay for things with Bitcoin or something of the like, and no one is really going to be interested in tracing it back to your address. There's also an ability to hide your address with some providers, but the point I am trying to make here is that a lot of times people are paying for things with Bitcoin and it's done very stealthily. And it's not as simple
Hmm.
to link transactions back to someone's name like we could with credit cards. So now that I've given you a little cryptocurrency 101 or like negative 99, baby, I have no idea what I'm talking
No, I think that
about.
was a really simple. That's like pretty succinct. I think. I don't think
Okay.
I'd ever even investigated crypto to even that level.
Yeah. Well, I think it just helps because as I started to read about this and originally in that Vice article, I was like, I don't know how crypto works. And I think it's just
Well, that's a
helpful.
Vice article for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's
They
go into this
eat that
convoluted thing
up.
that is under the
Yeah.
surface.
Yeah, exactly. So now that I've done that, and before I go straight into the case, I'm going to pull the rug out from underneath you and say, welcome back, creepers, to another Friday episode. And if you are new here, we are so happy that you found us, baby. I don't know how you did, but leave us a comment because I actually do kind of want to know how brand new creepers find us, whether it's by word of mouth, which is wonderful, or
I
just
was gonna tell you something. I think it
what?
was partially because those cut downs that we do, and some of the ones that you've led for
Yeah.
what because I post them pretty much everywhere. But like I posted them on Facebook. Facebook loves them when you lead them.
Oh, well,
All
baby,
yours do
it's those
numbers. I'll
competitive.
just say it. Like your
It's those
most recent one,
competitive
I think for
cups.
Susie, I think it's those competitive kips that for the one for Susie, I think did like it was like 400K or something on Facebook. So I think that's the new influx of listeners. I think it's coming from your
Okay.
cut downs.
It's coming from all my conservative cup, like, middle-aged
Your conservative cup followers.
yeah, followers. Oh, man, well, that's fantastic. But anyways, creepers, yes, please, go ahead and follow us on Spotify or Apple if you are new here. Feel free to leave us comments, and if you do like us, go ahead and rate and review us because that really helps us grow the show in addition to word of mouth. I mean, that is, like, the best testimony that you can give to somebody about the show. So,
Mm.
anyways, we're just so happy you're back with us for another Friday episode. And also, I keep forgetting to mention this when I lead that if you want, you can, for a limited time, watch us on Spotify video, and they are giving us, it's like an ad free listening experience over video. So I don't know if you also have insider tea about how long that's going to last
I
or if
have
I
no
do,
idea.
but
No.
I have no
For some
idea.
reason, my mind substituted you saying watch us on Spotify. It was like, you can also watch us on Pornhub if you want to.
Okay.
Like,
Well, in terms of this case, like, I think you're on the right track because
downloading,
yeah,
downloading.
you're
Sorry.
downloading. You're downloading. And also, let me just say, we're now 30 days away from launching our tour. So
Yes.
if you have not bought your tickets yet, please go to creeptime.com and you can go ahead and purchase those for all 8 of the cities on our western leg of the tour. And also, I just want to say real quick, if you haven't seen it yet, if you are coming to our Portland show or you were planning to come to our Portland show, we have moved that date to March 9th. So just make sure you should have received some information about that. But just make sure if you are coming to the Portland show that you're aware that the show is now just one day bumped to March 9th, which is actually my birthday.
I was
So,
gonna say, I was like, by the way, that's Stu's birthday. So
so
if
we're
you
going to
want to
have a
make it a very
bash.
special show, please come to
E-
the Portland show.
Exactly, baby. All right. And with that, are you ready?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So we are in 2016 when everything goes down, and Stephen and Amy Allwine have been married for 20 years at this point. They got married in 1996, and they were sort of your cookie cutter all American family. They had one son. Amy owned a dog training business, and her husband was a freelance IT expert, which will also play a very important role in this case. They were, from the outside, a seemingly very happy couple. They were very religious and both deeply involved in the United Church of God, which was their local church. So much so that Stephen was actually an elder. So he had the power to deliver sermons. He was sort of a guide within the church, within the congregation. A lot of people looked up to him, and he was really a leader in that community. And
Mm.
by proxy, so was Amy. And like I mentioned, they had met when they were really young. So everybody that knew them growing up knew them as a very solid family unit. Now, their one son, Joseph, had been adopted. He was 9 years old at
Oh.
the time this case takes place, and Joseph was extremely close with his mom, Amy. And I don't know if they weren't able to have kids or what the story was there, but the bond between Amy and Joseph was undeniably special. She reportedly would go to the ends of the earth for Joseph. They were like always together, and he was the center of her world, and she was very protective of him.
Mm.
Now, the center of our story takes place in November of 2016, November 13th to be exact. And it's a day that Steven was working from home. I think he actually normally worked from home, being freelance at this point, and his office was in
Mm.
their basement. But at around noon this day, Stephen had gone upstairs to have lunch, which he usually would always have with Amy and Joseph. However, Amy wasn't feeling well this day, and so she says, "You know what? I'm going to go lay down in our room for a little bit." And Stephen says, "Okay." And he takes it a step further and says, "Well, why don't I just go wrap up my work early and I'll go ahead and I'll watch Joseph for the rest of the day." And she says, "Yes, please." And she also calls for a little bit of backup. Because she wasn't feeling great, she called her father, who lived in the neighborhood. And at around 1 o'clock, Amy's father came over to help take care of both Joseph and Amy.
Mm.
And
Okay.
there were also apparently like some home improvement projects that her dad and her husband had been working on together too. So he sort of wanted to come by and check on those. So he had a reason for being there, just aside from Amy not feeling well.
Mm.
Now, at around 2 p.m., Amy said to her dad, "Do you mind if you just go ahead and take Joseph over to your house for a little bit so that Stephen can go and take me to the doctor? I'm really starting to not feel well." And her dad says, "Of course." And then Amy lets her dad know that she would probably be getting back to their house at his house at around 5:30 to go ahead and pick up Joseph. And they always had family dinner together, so that was sort of the layout of
Mm.
that day. The mom is sick, grandpa is gonna step in, and then dad is gonna go ahead and take mom to the doctor and take care of her so she can just rest and relax. So 5:30 rolls around that night, and a knock comes to Amy's dad's door, but it's not Amy showing up to pick Joseph up. It's Stephen, and he is alone. And Amy apparently ended up taking a turn for the worst, so she sent Stephen along to grab Joseph solo. Stephen lets Amy's dad know that the doctor's appointment actually never even happened. Amy ended up not wanting to go because she felt like she just was so sick she couldn't move and she just wanted to try and sleep it off instead.
No. No.
I know. I'm like, "Girl,
No.
go to the doctor. Go to the doctor." But that's like me. I would be like, and I'd have you text me going, "Get to urgent care right now."
Well, because I'm a hypochondriac, so when
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, "You're too sick, I gotta sleep it off, I can't go to the doctor," I'm getting airlifted.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So uh Amy ended up not wanting to go because she just felt deathly ill. And then at
Mm.
around 6:50, which was about an hour and a half later, Stephen ends up leaving his father-in-law's house with Joseph and they head on home. They cross the threshold of the house and Stephen goes back to their master bedroom to check on Amy. But what he finds is unimaginable. He finds Amy on the floor in a pool of her own blood with a gun in her hand. Amy Allwine looks to have committed suicide by shooting herself on the right side of the head.
Whoa, okay.
Stephen immediately calls 911 and tells the dispatcher that he thinks something terrible has happened while he was out picking up his son. And I'm going to go ahead and play the call. But before I do, because I need to find the link to it real quick. I wanted to get your first thoughts on that setup because I know I did just kind of like pull the rug out from under you. And
Yeah,
did you have
I
any sense?
no, no, I did not. This did not take the turn I think I thought it was because you had mentioned kind of like a dark web like drug ring. So I had assumed I was like, did she maybe take something and that was maybe what was making her sick or something? And I'm also
Yeah.
wondering where did the gun come from? I think I thought more so in the camp of drugs instead of this leading up to her taking her life with a gun. Um, I'm just very confused about what could have happened in this one day.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about to get a lot more confusing once I play this 911 call. I don't want to give away too much. I just want you to listen to it and see if there's anything that you pick up on
Mhm.
just initially. Let me just make sure I've got the right thing. This is always hard to do when you got headphones on.
The operator was still
Oh,
trying to get more information from him.
hold on.
This is me playing my own voice notes
Okay.
as I'm writing my memoir.
I think my wife shot herself. There's blood all over.
Shot herself? What?
It looks like it. Does she still have a weapon? I don't know. We just got. Did she shoot herself? I don't know. I just saw her in blood. I can't tell where she shot. I don't know.
Are we gonna remarry?
I don't know, bud.
Oh, just listening to
Okay.
that
Do
911
Wait.
you want me to play it again?
What did the son say?
He said, "Are you going to remarry?"
What?
And did you hear what the reaction was after that?
I don't know, bud. Is that what he said?
He said, "I don't know, bud, but there was a little bit." I kind of just want to play it for you again because that was kind of hard to hear, wasn't it? Let me try it one more time. Um,
My
hold
heart
on.
just. The operator was still
Sorry.
trying to get more information from
Random
him, but
TikToker.
Stephen was also speaking to his
Okay.
son in the background at the same time.
911, what's the address of the emergency? I think my wife shot herself. There's blood all over.
Shot herself? What?
It looks like it. Does she still have a weapon? I don't know. We just got. Did she shoot herself? I don't know. I just saw her in blood. I can't tell where she shot. I don't know.
Are we gonna remarry?
I don't know, bud.
Oh, just listening to that
Okay.
911.
Did you hear that time?
Where you said he laughed and then he goes, I don't know, bud. That's the last part I heard before the narrator jumped in, I think.
Yeah. Well, to me, the number one thing that was kind of odd, there's two things. It's the laugh, and I think first of all, why is his son there? And I understand that in a state of shock, you're probably just going to do the best you can, and they might have just walked in and the son trailed behind him. But I just have to say, like, if that had been my son, this is about to be like a core formative memory for a 9-year-old, and I just found it odd, and I really do want you to challenge me on this if you feel like I'm being too aggressive, but I just kind of feel like to have the stun standing there, like, with him over the body as he's making this call just
Oh, he's
struck me.
literally over the body?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I don't truth be told, I've fortunately never been anywhere close to a situation like this. So I would actually defer to any of the creep time mental health professionals to tell me what goes through your mind when you're in a state of shock like that.
Mhm.
Like, are you thinking critically about like protecting a child or like how your delivery is going to I swear I just heard the ice cream man, sorry.
No.
And I
Oh
don't
my
think and
god.
the scary thing is I don't think it was real. I think it was in my head.
That's yeah. That's the state of affairs, the state of
It
the
is.
union right now.
But I don't know. It's the whole call feels disturbing and strange to me, but I'm more so curious if this is what I'm hearing is the reaction of shock and like somebody's mind like shutting down, or if there's something sinister under the surface.
Yeah. Well, we will get to the sinisterness that is under the surface because I don't want to give too much away, but there definitely is going to be. I think you're going to reflect and think back to that call, and we can talk about it more at the end of this case and
Ooh.
kind of see how it affects you. But I think why I just wanted to call attention to it, and I really do. Yes, creep time. Mental health professionals, or if there is somebody that wants to share if they've ever had this experience. I have not had this experience either, thank God, but it did just strike me as odd that the son was just standing there the whole time as this was going down. And then
Mhm.
number 2, the laugh after the son says, "Are you gonna remarry?" I mean,
Even just the son saying, "Are you gonna remarry?" The whole thing is just it's a very abnormal sequence of a conversation.
yeah.
Just do you
Yeah.
feel that? It doesn't make sense to me the way that, like, that whole layout of that call happened.
Yeah. I mean, it his I do think the child's response is odd. I guess I'm not gonna, like, fault a child for saying something like that because they might not like, that might just be a child saying something that they don't quite know what it means because they don't know what they're
Like, they're in a
reacting
state of
to.
shock as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
they can't comprehend, like, the gravity of what's going on.
Right. But for him to laugh, I just thought was really bizarre that in that moment of crisis, that is your response also in front of your child. And I thankfully I was not the only one because I ended up reading on that the 911 dispatcher recalled that she was on the other end of the phone thinking to herself, like, what in the world? Did he just laugh? Like, and also did the child just ask that? Like she remembered what an abnormal call it was as well.
Mhm.
But here's where things get really interesting. So, a female detective, a woman named Sergeant Gwen Martin, and I think I've got some photos of her on the
Oh,
doc.
should
She might
I
be
I've
on,
only stayed on the first page. Should I
yeah,
scroll down?
I think she's on page 2.
Okay, I'll
Um,
scroll down.
okay,
Scroll with me, creepers.
scroll, creeper, scroll. So she is on her radio when dispatch comes on and says they've received this 911 call about a possible female suicide, and Amy Allwine at 1122 110th Street South. And Sergeant Martin immediately recognizes this address because Sergeant Martin actually knew Amy Allwine. And we'll unpack maybe why she had done this later, but Amy had decided to take an emergency services and law enforcement course, sort of like a citizens police academy. She had just taken an 8-week training session with Sergeant Martin.
Interesting.
And in Martin's head, she's thinking, oh my God, I just saw this woman like 2 weeks ago. So, according to Sergeant Martin, Amy did not strike her as the type of person to want to take her own life. And in fact, she seemed very ambitious and motivated, had told her during the course how much she loved being a mother, which we know all of those things can be very performative, but
Mhm.
something within the context of her just taking that course and then the personality that Sergeant Martin had gotten to know just struck her as very odd. So when she heard this call come
Yeah.
over the radio, she actually takes it upon herself to go over to the Allwines. And she immediately spots a couple of really odd things when she gets into the house. So, first, and I think this is really smart, I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but she smells something really weird. So, she walks into the kitchen and she sees that something is still being baked in the oven. So, Amy had been roasting pumpkin, which I guess you can roast for a long time. And
Mhm.
Sergeant Martin is thinking, okay, who goes and starts roasting, pumpkin probably for dinner and then goes straight upstairs and takes their own life and leaves the oven on?
Mhm.
She also noticed that when she got there, Amy was lying perfectly face up on the floor, which is sort of odd. Most people, apparently, when they do take their own life with a gun, they tend to fall forwards or they sort of fall broken legged underneath themselves. But it's
Right.
kind of bizarre to find somebody completely flat on their back. And then she noticed that her pants were also unzipped. And
Huh.
finally, she remembered that Amy, remember how I said that Amy had shot herself in the right side of the head?
Yes.
Well, the gun was in her left hand. And there was also no blood, no gunpowder on her hand, which normally, if you pulled the trigger, there would have probably been either one or both. So it's high time in her mind to start a forensic investigation.
Yeah.
And after the investigation, drops of blood are found in other areas of the bedroom, indicating that she had been moved around. They end up doing a luminal test, and when they do this, they discover that the room had been cleaned. There had been other blood stains that they couldn't see with the naked eye,
Ooh.
and these stains had trailed from the bedroom to a mudroom and then to a bathroom. There were also blood stains that led into their son's bedroom. So I have a feeling you probably have a hunch, and the creepers probably have a lot of hunches, but how is all of that tracking for you? Are you already what are you thinking?
It ain't a hunch. I was like, I'm ready to arrest. Like, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, anytime that there's a case of a mysterious death, but specifically one that is made to look like a suicide, is reported as a suicide, and there is any evidence outside of that that suggests it's not a suicide, go to the husband.
Yeah.
Go to the spouse.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna go to the husband, but baby, I can assure you this is gonna take twists and turns that you are not gonna be prepared for. And also, I just wanna say if you do have that doc in front of you, creepers, like, take a look at this guy, Steven, because there was something about as I was reading about this case and researching it, it was just and I hate to say this, but, like, unfathomable to me that this, like, man did all of this. So,
That's what they always say.
I know, I know. But yeah, we're gonna start to look at the husband. But before we go straight into that, let's talk about how someone could have cleaned up that much blood. I mean,
Mhm.
there was a lot that had trailed behind them, and of course,
Really?
yes, and obviously, if someone has committed suicide, maybe they're not there to clean up their own mess. So
Well,
yes, we're gonna
yeah,
look
I
at the
I even
husband.
just you saying the gun was in the opposite hand from where the gunshot wound was, to me, I'm like it's so crazy too that you're saying this because I'm currently researching a case for an upcoming episode,
Yeah,
and the parallels to this are, like, driving me crazy right now. It's
really.
so similar, it's so eerie, Stu.
Oh my god, I like really want to ask you what you're researching,
I was
but
gonna say, I feel, like, especially equipped from researching that case because so many of the circumstances are, like, one to one that I'm like, "I've seen this before."
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I was
Whoa.
actually trying to think, I felt like as I was researching this, there was a case in the past where it had been like a staged suicide, and I just couldn't put my
The
finger
Oslo
on it.
woman.
Yes! Oh my god, yes. That's
Mhm.
Jennifer Farragate, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly who it was. Um, so the coroner takes the body and performs an autopsy, and by the next day, it's determined that Amy had died somewhere right around 3:15 PM on the 13th.
Mm.
What comes out of that initial autopsy that I thought was most interesting was that within her bloodstream, she had 20 times the typical prescribed dose of a drug called scopolamine, which she had no
Huh.
prescription for. Now, scopolamine, for those that don't know, I certainly didn't know what it was.
I was raising my hand if you can't see.
Yeah, I can't see. Sorry, baby. Yes, honey. Scopolamine is used to treat nausea, and it does this by blocking go with me. Now we're in biology 101. It does this by blocking, it's called acetylcholine, but it's sort of like a neurotransmitter, I guess, that it tells us how to perform automatic functions. So things like that we don't have to think about, like calling something for memory or our heart rate or how we digest. It would have basically inhibited and made you lose a lot of those functions and a lot of like motor functions. So you'd just start to like slow down. Now, how did
Mm.
she get all of that into her system? Well, things are going to become very complicated very fast in a way I don't think you'll anticipate. So buckle up.
Okay.
Like we said, we are going to turn to Stephen, and Stephen claims that he wasn't home the majority of the day. He had been running errands, and that he was nowhere near their home at 3:15 when Amy had presumably passed. Now, interestingly enough, their next door neighbors actually came forward and said that they believed they saw an unknown vehicle that wasn't Stephen's or Amy's driving by the house at that time. But that was one of the only confounding things at the beginning of this investigation because other than this,
Mm.
Stephen was very open with the police. He was immediately willing to go down to the station for questioning.
Mhm.
And then something is unearthed that police couldn't have possibly predicted. Police come to find out that Amy had been in contact with the FBI that past spring.
What?
Right. Now, why in the world is Amy Allwine, a dog trainer, loving mother, and devout wife? Why in the world is this woman contacting the FBI? Do you want to take a guess?
Well, it was her who contacted them?
Well, she
Or
had been
like
in contact, I
oh,
should say.
gotcha. I was like, "Can you call the FBI?"
Yeah, baby.
Um,
You don't know?
well, I mean,
511.
since you kind of alluded to, like, some dark web stuff, I'm wondering if she was getting mixed up with some of the drug trade on the dark web, and maybe that's what linked her
Mm,
and the FBI?
you're very close. You're very close. You're warm. But Amy had been, wait, baby, talk.
Hello?
Okay. I heard it go like, and I was like, oh.
That's just my whiplash
Oh,
from this case.
was like, hold on. I didn't want it to cut out. Okay. So
It's
sorry.
better than you saying that it stopped recording. I have
So-
a paranoia about that now.
I know. Now we're like complete. Did you see that I contacted Riverside? I was like, we need to know for the future.
Oh, you did? Okay, I
Yeah.
had contacted them too, and they totally like blew me off. They were like, "Yeah, it looks like it just needs to be uploaded," and I was like, "No, you're not understanding."
I was like, baby, I cannot put him through another case twice. Like, I need you to understand that Riverside
But
help desk.
people did like that though. They were like, I saw a comment where they were like, "I liked that neither of you were blind reacting, and you both had like been prepped kind of on the case." So
Yeah.
we like flew with it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
sorry, I'll let you get back
it
into
was
it.
it was like we were true investigators. We were on the case, baby.
I'm not growing this mustache for nothing. I am a detective. I am Sherlock Holmes, baby.
Exactly. Watson. So yeah, so Amy, you're very, very close. So Amy had been contacted by the FBI after they discovered that her name was listed on a dark web hit list. So that May, the FBI met with Amy and asked her if anyone would want her dead. And at first, she thought this was a joke. They said, ma'am, this is no joke. Do you know anyone who would want to hurt you? By the way, this was all unearthed because they had actually been conducting a larger investigation where they believed some software that the military had developed had basically been used against them to start operating dark web marketplaces. So that's the only
Hmm.
reason why they even like uncovered this in the first place. And anyways, they say, do you know why anybody would want you dead? And she was completely shocked and says,
Of
no, I
course.
cannot think of anybody that I have bad blood with or would hate me that much to want to have me killed. Now, the hit list that the FBI had found, her name was listed under a group that was called the Basa Mafia. And I think on page 3, I've got a couple of like images of
Here,
what
I'll scroll
this
down.
like dark web page looked like. And um
Oh,
it's
scary.
yes,
Oh,
very
scary.
yeah.
Creepers. If you head over to Reddit and you get to this part in the case, go down to page 3. This is eerie. I don't like it already.
Yeah, it almost looked like fake to me when I first looked at it. Like it just doesn't even I can't even believe that that's real, but almost like a video game style like
Mhm.
we can take somebody out. But anyways, yeah, the group was called Basa Mafia and it was apparently a group of Albanian hitmen and it was run by a leader named Yura. And the website apparently showed a very proud group and yeah, there's like a lot of propaganda-esque videos that show how
Mhm.
strong and capable these hitmen were and how they could basically execute anyone any way you wanted them to. And they even had a part of their site I was reading that was like intended for recruitment. So you could basically audition to be a hitman for the Basa Mafia by sending in videos of like how strong you were, how much you wanted to work for
Not a
them.
self-tape to be a
Yes.
hitman.
Yes, baby. Dark doesn't even begin to
Copy
describe.
credit meal, self-tape.
It's truly. So, upon further investigation, they were able to tap the mafia's cache of email data, which included email chains between them and their clients, even though many of their clients didn't use their real names, of course. Most of them had a username to protect their, I can never say this word,
Anonymity?
anonymity. Say it again.
Anonymity.
Anonymity. I've never been
Anonymity.
able to pronounce that word. Like,
What did
so
that
it's
remind me of? That reminded me of something
anon-
from Finding Nemo.
anonymity. Yes.
He's an anemone or something.
Anemone.
An
Yeah.
anemone.
Anonymity.
That protected
Maybe.
them being anonymous.
Anonymous. That's right. And they were able to find emails that were tied to Amy's hit. And they were emails coming from a user named Dog Day God. Now, also a part of their site was supposedly like a menu. So like a hit menu. So you could go on
Like the
there.
a la carte, Jesus.
Yes, yes. So you could go and it would say like, $4,000 for a basic kill, $10,000.
Only $4,000? My God.
I know. 10,000 if you wanted a hit and run and like actually truly like a la carte. And I hate saying that. I'm not trying to like, make light of this. Is very serious, but like
No, but
there's
that's the way it was presented on the site.
exactly. But like there was even a section that was like, based on the type of kill you want or like how stealth you want it, we can, customize the package and like it could it could be like a 50 grand operation, like with a sniper kill or something. So how does one pay for the Basa Mafia, pay for the services of the Basa Mafia? Well, you can't use your credit card. So Bitcoin, baby, or whatever cryptocurrency of choice that you used or had access
Mhm.
to. But apparently, Basa Mafia preferred Bitcoin because you could, I guess there was a way to make yourself remain more anonymous on Bitcoin back then. I don't know if things have changed, but the IP address of whoever made the purchase was supposedly protected, and there was no way that it could be linked back to you, supposedly. And the Basa Mafia let their clients know that everything took place on their quote decentralized network, which I think was just a bunch of jargon that alleged
Mhm.
that nothing would be traceable. But Bitcoin 201, everything is available on a public blockchain, which is just basically like a public ledger.
Mhm.
So, with the right tools, law enforcement can easily trace transactions back and go ahead and figure out how to identify those wallets and start to link them back to either specific individuals or at least their physical address that they're attached to. So, when the FBI had initially made this discovery of the Basa Mafia site, they had found a list of 282 hits that had been ordered across 60 different countries, which most of them were like hits on lovers or on enemies.
My God.
Yeah, like crazy. But back to Amy specifically and the emails about her hit, they also found about 60 pages worth of email correspondence between that user, Dog Day God, and the Basa Mafia. And that correspondence had started right around Valentine's Day of 2016. And Dog Day God had sent an email to them that basically said, I'm looking to hire you for a hit. What is the recommended way to convert cash to Bitcoin anonymously? Which tells us that that this person, Dog Day God, was probably not too familiar with Bitcoin. And I guess
Says
it
this
was
is like
still,
early days of Bitcoin. This
yeah,
is
I was gonna
really
say,
early.
I think it was, yeah, because I don't think Bitcoin was around until like at least 2010 or something. I don't think it was, might have been even later, but
I was never even aware of it until like 2018, 2019. I think. That was the
yeah,
first time that I had heard about it. But again, the people bringing it to your attention, if they're not people that you would consider to be very smart, maybe it's not a good investment.
right, right. But I guess desperate people do desperate things.
That they do.
So a few more emails were sent back and forth between Dog Day God and the Basa Mafia, where they were basically trying to negotiate the price of the kill for, Amy's kill. And the emails revealed that they eventually reached an agreement of $12,000 for the job. Interestingly, it wasn't until the price was even set in stone that Dog Day God revealed the name of who they wanted killed. And when they did, they said, this is a real quote, Amy Allwine, I need this bitch dead. That's all it said. The email then continued and that kind of like backfilled the narrative about why they wanted her dead and she had allegedly stolen clients from Dog Day God. I guess Dog Day God was a
What?
dog training business competitor of Amy's.
What?
Yes.
Okay, this is not where I thought this was going. What?
Yeah, strapping. And not only that, uh, Dog Day God claimed that Amy had been sleeping with her husband. So it appears that Dog Day God is this super angry, like business competitor of Amy's, and she wants to put a hit out on her husband's mistress.
She.
Yeah. So, yeah. They also shared information with the mafia that Amy was going to be traveling on business to Moline, Illinois for a dog training convention. And they provided the hotel address she was going to be staying at, a description of her car, the route she would most likely be taking, which, how does this random business competitor know the route she's going to take? I don't
Mhm.
know. But, anyways, on top of that, they offer up ways that they would like for Amy to be murdered. And they specify A, they want it to look like an accident, and B, they don't want her husband or son to be harmed. Now, the trip to Moline comes and goes, and shockingly, Amy Allwine survives and nothing happens to her. There were also additional exchanges between the Basa Mafia and Dog Day God, and they claimed that they couldn't finish the job because it was just too risky. But they continue to have this rapport with Dog Day God, and they say, listen, we're still trying to coordinate our other options. They're asking for additional updates on Amy's movements that Dog Day God can provide, like if they're seeing Amy out and about. And so if they do, they give more information on her whereabouts, messaging them on like seeing her at the grocery store, supposedly. And other times they've seen her maybe headed out of town. And the Basa Mafia sends back messages of where they've apparently been spotting her in town. So I just want to pause there. And are you feeling like I guess let me just see how you're feeling with the like whole mistress aspect of this and like is it believable to you?
No.
Okay. I'm realizing I'm painting us and getting us into the corner because but listen, I
I
mean, stranger things can happen.
I mean, at first I was like totally out of left field. I was like the mistress angle, and I immediately thought of tell me if this reminded you of this, but I thought of Missy Beavers. And I know that that's not the official
Yeah.
that's not the official theory that any investigators or like official body has put out, but I always thought the mistress thing was an interesting angle and possibly a credible angle when it came to that case. So I was wondering while you were talking about this if it applied to this. But the more that you're going into it and the further this person seems to be readily offering up these intimate details, I'm no longer buying a mistress
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
theory.
I mean, I also just kind of the username was so weird to me. It
Daunting.
doesn't really, it's probably not worth like
Well, it made
really
sense when
unpacking
you
it, but
said it as like a potential competitor who like Amy might be stealing business
yeah,
from. I was like, maybe that's like another dog training business or
I know.
something. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
thought. So it
Yeah.
sounded like that was also part of the layout.
Well, I'm sure for like, the FBI when they first took a look at it, I mean, that's a plausible theory. Like this was before, it was a long time ago and it
Totally.
was like right in the, I guess the prime of her career and everything. So, yeah, I don't know, but let's kind of flash back to when Amy sat down with all of this information, which was in May of 2016. So she is obviously shocked, and a lot of the information is accurate. And she takes it very seriously and says, I promise I have never had an affair on my husband. I am super in love with him and devout. And I think, like, when you look at the pictures of her on that first page, like, she really did adore her husband, and they were supposedly like best
Yeah,
friends. They've been together
you get a
since they were
great sense for
kids.
them and at least what their relationship looks like on the outside. But I didn't get any bad vibes at all looking at
Yeah.
them.
So she gives police a handful of names of people that like maybe could want her dead, which she told them she was like, these are all reaches. I mean, these are people that like maybe I've had one weird encounter with, but it's rare for me to have anybody that I have like bad blood with.
Mhm.
But the thing that really got her were the photos that were taken of her. I mean, they were
They had
like,
photos.
yeah, they had photos. They were irrefutable proof of
Oh, what the
someone
hell?
stalking her or like out to get her. And you're probably wondering, had she or police shared this with her husband, Steven? And she had. So Steven apparently came down and he asked police, is there any chance that they could have gotten this wrong? Like, could they have gotten the wrong Amy? And police are like, no, this is definitely someone out to get your wife and show him the pictures. And then things got even stranger because we roll around to that summer in July. So 5 months before Amy would be killed, and Amy starts getting emails from this anonymous encrypted email address that says, "You're responsible for my life coming apart. You need to kill yourself for what's happened. That's the only way you can save your family." She's like
What?
very threatening and definitely hammering home, the idea that the only way out would be for her to take her own life.
Mhm.
So Amy goes to the FBI with all these emails and they start interviewing people that they thought could possibly be the person behind them. Some were even friends of Amy's and Steven's, like church friends, even work friends, but nothing was pointing to any of them being suspects. And police are kind of like at a dead end and they basically just advise the Allwines that the best thing that they can do is to invest in a hell of a lot of security, go ahead and install cameras, buy a gun. So at this point, Amy is just sort of living in a perpetual state of fear.
Of course.
But actually, and I did want to clarify this, her son, just for what it's worth, had no idea about this. I was just curious about that in the research, if like they had told the son
Mhm.
or anything. From what I read, he didn't know about it. So
I wondered that too actually when you brought it up. That's
yeah.
interesting.
Well, it's weird because it's like, I mean, he was at the age, again, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying with the 911 call. I mean, he is at the age where he's 9 years old. He's gonna be very impressionable, but he's also at that age where like he's starting to get old enough to understand concepts like this. But I mean,
Mhm.
I think they probably did the right anything concealing this. I mean, there was no reason, I guess, to really share it with him
Of
unless they
course.
thought like he was going to be in grave danger or something.
I'd only wondered it from the 911 call for how, I guess, familiar might be the right word he seemed with the
Hmm.
idea that his mom could be found dead, and I was like, it almost seems like he was prepped for this in a strange way, which is why I wondered when you brought it up if he had any knowledge of, like, what was going on.
I know, that's exactly why I wondered. I was like, "That 911 call was so weird." Like, let me just go back and make sure, because that was gonna add a new layer to me if, like, as a family, they kinda, like, very, like,
Anticipated her
Ozark-esque
death, yeah.
esque yeah, like, anticipated it, but from what I could
Eerie.
find, he didn't know.
Mm.
Uh, Now, let's go back to, or I guess go forward to November when Amy dies. So she had friends and family that knew about this whole FBI connection, and they are understandably furious when this happens. They're like, why wasn't anything done? Who the hell was this Dog Day God person? And I'm not even sure how that information got leaked to them in the first place, but I guess it was probably because some of them started to get interviewed as, like, possible suspects in her death, and
Mhm.
it all kinda came back up. But even worse, the Basa Mafia at this time had put out a video on the dark web after Amy died stating that Amy Allwine was their kill, and they basically used her death as a marketing moment, like a
Oh
success
my
story
god.
for what it's like to work with them. It was absolutely horrendous. And all of this is happening as police are continuing their investigation, which at this point, Stephen has been providing additional names of suspicious people in their lives, really just going above and beyond to try to help police. And they're starting to wonder, like, thou doth protest too much or thou doth help too much. They decide to re examine
Yeah.
the husband, Stephen. So they decide to really retrace his steps that day. Specifically, Sergeant Martin looks back at that 911 call where he laughed about the possibility of getting remarried and his sort of eerily calm demeanor when he initially came in for questioning and then during these, months of investigation. And
Mhm.
then they find something. I'm unsure what took them so long to do this or come to this conclusion that they should, but they scrub Steven's computer and they find an odd looking 34 character code stored in a folder that matches the exact wallet code of the Bitcoin wallet used to purchase Amy Allwine's hit. Not only that, but Steven had three different affairs going on via
Oh,
the adultery website Ashley Madison.
knew it. Knew
Uh-huh.
it.
Uh-huh. And now it's all starting to click. We have a motive. But remember how I said they were really religiously involved?
Mhm.
So their church was they had such, like, presence at this church. They were not allowed to legally divorce. And if it was ever found out that you were cheating on your spouse, you would be asked to leave the congregation. So we don't know to what extent each of these affairs he was having was. Like, did he want to run off and marry one of these women? Did he just wanna have freedom? We don't
Mhm.
know, but clearly one of them was serious enough, or he was just enjoying himself enough that he needed to come up with a plan to have his wife killed.
Like, he was plotting.
Mhm, and I think the most sick and twisted part of this entire thing is that he was a phenomenal actor. For months, he just sat right there with her as she presented the threatening emails to police and was just living a totally double life. He was playing the protective husband and using any information that she shared in those meetings, like with the
Mhm.
FBI, directly against her. So let's just
That is
pause
kinda
there.
crazy. That's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I think I did suspect him, like, kind of the whole time because I always think the husbands are, like, guilty until proven innocent in my book.
Right.
But it's so interesting because, like, for him to go and sort of look down the barrel of the camera, I guess, sort of speak, when he's, like, confronting this head on with his wife, and he's so open and so available in the investigation from the jump. As an investigator, that would, like, disarm me a little bit. That would sorta I'm not that I'm an investigator, but
Oh, you
if I
already.
was in those shoes, that would certainly make me think that this is maybe not somebody to look at, but I am shocked. Shocked it was only until after her death they decided to get a warrant to search his computer.
I know. I wish I could go back and find, like, if Sergeant Martin has ever made a comment about back then, if there was any sort of, well, I guess I don't know if I didn't see if she knew about, like, the extent of Amy's getting together with the FBI or anything, but I just assumed
Oh,
she had
yeah.
some information because then Amy took that, like, self-defense course with her, so I just wondered if
Oh, that's why. Oh, now that
yeah,
makes
that's why she
sense.
took it
Okay,
because she was
gotcha,
freaking
gotcha.
out. Um,
Interesting. I
but
wonder what
I
the FBI does if they tell you to, like, not tell people when you're in a situation like that, or if
I
they
know.
that's so interesting. I've never thought about that.
I wonder actually if she ever even got close to, like, going into, like, witness protection or something. I mean,
I was gonna say I would have relocated, my god.
yeah, yeah. It was kinda bold for her to, like, I mean, that was 5 months, that she had to just live with all of that information,
Yeah,
but I
problem is calls coming from inside the house.
exactly, exactly. I also just think it's interesting to think about, I mean, and this is just me as a woman, but I do wonder if Sergeant Martin was the one to kinda be like, "This guy's being a little too nice with us on this." Like, I do think that just as a woman, like, you kind of pick up on stuff like that. I would just be curious if she was in the room when he was, like, giving all the suspect names and then answering all the questions and just, like, going above and beyond. I should have looked into that, but I would just be curious.
Mhm.
Now, at this point, it's obvious that Steven is behind all of this, but let's look at the Besa Mafia's role in all of this just a little bit closer. After the supposed attempted murder in Moline, Illinois, Steven starts to get frustrated because the hit is taking too long. It had been months at this point, and the excuses from the mafia were piling up that it just wasn't the right time or the conditions weren't right for Amy's kill. So I don't know if you also had a hunch about this. Do you have any idea what I'm about to say?
No.
The entire Besa Mafia was a complete scam. Wasn't real.
Oh, what?
So
Oh.
they
I
had been stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from people. So
okay, okay.
yeah. So Steven had figured out, like, he started putting 2 and 2 together, because it took a couple of months, but he was like, "Oh, I don't think these guys are ever gonna do this." So that's when he decided that he was gonna have to commit himself to the idea of having to kill Amy himself. And I'm not sure exactly, like, when he made that discovery, but I just thought I
Mm,
was, like, shocked when I got to that layer. I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, that's nuts. But yeah, they had stolen so much money from,
mhm.
all there were 200, I guess I said 282 hits that had been ordered at the time. They were kinda busted, so
Yeah, kind of an interesting, like, Robin Hood scam if they take the money and then, like,
yeah.
turn in the name of the person who hired the hit. It's
Right.
like, that'd be kind of incredible.
Well, it's kinda weird. I mean, I was thinking about that. I was like, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, a good thing that they ended up getting, I mean, it's not a good thing. It's a total catch-22, like, the whole operation, but I mean,
Mhm.
at least these people actually didn't kill anybody, and also, yes, like, the FBI was able to get a list of people that were potential murderers.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I wonder how they acquired all of that information. But
Yeah,
also, I have to think about, like, where that money came from, and maybe that could have been joint savings, like, that's so much money.
so much. I mean, yeah, think about, like, I guess if the average kill was, like, 4 grand times, like, 200.
Yeah, a hit and run is 10 grand? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy. So, Stephen was very familiar with the dark web at this point, and he goes online and begins searching for lethal drugs from a website. This was the name of it, called Dream Market.
Mm,
And this was where he ended up buying the scopolamine. Uh, if he couldn't be any more twisted, he then started to give it to Amy in, like, small doses over the course of the week leading up to November 13th. So he had just, like, administered a little bit every single day so that it would build up over time. So she started to believe, like, "Oh god, I'm kinda coming down with something." So, like, imagine he's watching her in real time, like, knowing that he's just waiting for the day that he's gonna say, like, "Alright, it's time. Like, I'm gonna give her the, like, final
oh
blow."
my
I just that
god.
was so dark when I was reading about
I
that.
just I can't stop thinking about, like, her poor kid, my god.
I know, I know. Uncovering the depths to which his father went to do this and, like, just the
Look,
sinister nature of, like,
you're
how it
losing 2
all
parents. Your mom is gone, and then your dad is the one responsible. I can't even imagine that from like a
Yeah.
child's perspective.
Yeah. Well, and then in the trial, oh my God, he like hammers that home. He's like, I would never leave my child without a mother. Like, anyways, I won't jump ahead of myself, but
I
the
was gonna say,
man's
I was just about to be like,
effed.
wait, he's gonna deny this?
Yeah. This is the case where I'm just consistently getting ahead of myself, but but yeah, he's gonna deny the entire thing. Actually, and I'll
Okay.
tell you what his defense was because it's hilarious. But uh yeah, so once Joseph was over at Amy's dad's house on the 13th, Stephen then decides that he's gonna use the gun that they had ironically purchased to
For
protect
protection.
themselves
Knew it. Yeah.
from Dog Day God, and he staged her death as a suicide. So Stephen really maintained that he was innocent until the very end. And he said that he was basically being framed, that he would have never, ever done this. He would have never left his son without his mother. But I just find it really ironic and funny that for an IT professional, he did a really crappy job covering up all of his tracks. Like, apparently, that Bitcoin code was super easy to find, like in his like, downloads folder. So they find the
Hmm.
software that he used to access the dark web. They found his search history that hadn't been deleted about how to use Bitcoin. He had been taking cryptocurrency like education classes, and even his search history, which had like all the stuff about the Moline, Illinois conference that was coming up and like mapping a route. It was just
Jeez, and this
ridiculous.
isn't even like early IT stuff. Like this is 2016.
I
It's
know.
that is kind of shocking.
I know. And then this is what really, I think they were just like, okay. They found a photo that he had sent from his phone to his own email with, it was like a photo of Amy on a vacation they had taken to Hawaii. And that was then found in an email to the Basa Mafia really early on. That was like, this is the woman. This is Amy Allwine. This is what she looks like in order for you to go get the hit on her. So, after all this incriminating evidence comes out, Stephen Allwine is charged and arrested with second-degree murder of Amy Allwine in January of 2017. But once the case went to court, it was escalated pretty quickly to first-degree murder because once they gathered more and more evidence off of his computer, it was pretty clear that the whole thing was premeditated.
What's the difference again between first degree and second degree? I gotta look this up.
I
I
think
always
second
lose this.
degree I think second degree is like you didn't plan to kill the person, but you killed them.
Oh, like not it wasn't premeditated.
Yeah, yeah, like,
Oh,
you could
okay. That
be
makes sense.
I think, like, you could be out and, like, have, an altercation with somebody and you end up, like, losing it and killing
That
them, and
makes
that's
sense.
second-degree murder. And what's third degree then? Like, you're
Accidental murder?
I think
Maybe?
that's manslaughter.
I gotta look this up. Hold on.
I know, I'm like, I should
I'm
know
like,
this.
is 120 something episodes and we're like, what is first degree and second degree murder?
Literally, I know what first degree is, and I think I
Hold
know what
on.
second is,
Third
but I don't know
degree
what third is.
murder. It is there is no such thing as third degree murder.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Case
Perfect.
closed.
Case closed. So, yes, it's escalated to first degree murder, and the trial only lasted for about 8 days, all during which Stephen
Whoa.
continued to plead not guilty. And his defense team built their case around the idea that someone was coming into their house and using his computer without
Oh
his
my
knowledge.
God.
I know.
This guy.
I know. They take a page out of our book and they blame county police and they say they did a terrible job of protecting Amy during this time that they knew she was in
And that I
danger.
could possibly agree with, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
The defense gets a win for that one.
exactly. But thankfully, the jury was able to see through this and they ended up deliberating only for 8 hours and concluded that Stephen Allwine was guilty of first degree murder. And to wrap this up and kind of quote the judge at his trial, he said, "You are an incredible actor, a hypocrite, and a cold and calculating killer." He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And actually, as of 2022, I was just curious about this, but at least 5 members of the Basa Mafia have been arrested and are now facing charges for murder, organized crime, and money laundering. But apparently, the website is, I think it was actually created in Romania. So, like, obviously, we don't, like, in the United States, we don't have real jurisdiction, I guess, to be able to go like shut the whole operation down, or maybe even like the resources to shut it down or go over there and do it. But
I'm like, watch me. I'll
I
do
know,
it.
I know. I'm like, baby, book our flights to Romania. But and also the Yura guy has never been convicted. So, and I couldn't find much on
Mm,
that. So I don't know what's happened to him. I'd be curious to do a little bit more of a deep dive on that.
might
But
be running multiple other websites, to be honest.
probably. But that is sort of the insane spider web of this case and the murder of Amy Allwine.
Why does this feel so familiar? First of all, that was so twisted and so many twists and turns in that one. Like I did not expect half of that was going to unfold the way it was, and it's
Yeah.
such a strange and morbidly unique experience to know for a long period of time, which months, I consider this a long period of time, that you could die at any minute when you have a
Hmm.
hit on you. That's so scary.
Well, and I don't want to be like too, well, I am going to go there. Think about the moment that she clocked. Oh my God, my husband is behind this. There had to have been
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. I wonder like what that day was like after the son is out of the house for a period of time with the grandfather, I think you
Hmm.
mentioned, right?
Hmm.
And she's getting progressively sicker because she's being fed basically poison.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that moment like? The second that she realized when he pulled out the protection gun
Yeah.
and holds it up to her head.
Yeah. I wonder actually like how out of it she really was. Cause I mean,
You said like
apparently you
10 or
can,
20 times
yeah,
the
20
dosage?
times the
Oh my
dosage.
god, she might have been like
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, that
Like,
alone could have possibly, if he hadn't shot her, could have possibly killed her.
yeah. Well, I think from what I read, I mean, I think that you can administer that in a lethal dose. Like if he wanted to, I think he could have just killed her by giving her more of that. And maybe he actually thought that day that she would die, and maybe it just wasn't happening within the time frame that he thought. So
Oh,
maybe that's why he
interesting.
shot her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that would interesting. Because if he didn't, I mean, I guess like it would get uncovered. Like let's say like she's not dying or something, or she's getting very, very ill and somehow calls 911 or has to go to the hospital and they're able to like, I don't know, I'm spitballing, pump her stomach or something.
yeah,
Maybe they would be able to see like she has this strange, like a large amount of this medication in her system
right.
and they could test for it and that would clue them in. They're like, this is an attempted poisoning.
Right. Because it's not a common drug. I mean, I've never heard of it before. Maybe it's
I
got
hadn't
like a
either.
brand name or something,
I've
but
yeah, it's supposed to it helps with nausea specifically, or I'm sure it has other uses.
yeah, I guess I like a really intense nausea medication.
So interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder why that. Maybe he just saw a description of it on that like
Dream Market or whatever.
yeah, that website and it was like, "We'll sedate somebody or make them render them incapacitated," maybe.
Yeah. Have we covered other cases where someone has hired a hit?
I mean, it depends how you look at Missy Beavers, I guess, if you wanna
Yeah.
go that route, but I actually don't think that was a hired hit. I think that was somebody who plotted to do the whole thing themselves.
Hmm. Am I thinking about this wrong? The Jennifer Pan, she didn't.
Well, well, actually, yeah, she did hire a hit,
Did she hire a hit? Okay,
but
I
they
couldn't
weren't
remember.
really hired, I guess, because one of them was someone she was dating. I was pretty sure.
Right, right,
So
right,
it was
right.
it was a joint conspiracy to paint them as like robbers, but really it was a joint conspiracy with her and her then boyfriend and I think a friend to kill her parents.
Yeah. Oh god, that case really, that 911 call is
That is
another
one of the
one.
craziest 911
Yeah,
calls we have ever played on Creep Time. Because the
creepers.
second when she's on that, I can't spoil it, but something
Yeah,
is revealed on that call that she realizes in real time, and it just dramatically changes the way that this case would cement itself in true crime history.
yeah. Creepers, go back and listen to that episode. I don't I wish I knew off the top of my head which one it was, but that I remember when you told that story, that I mean, that was one of those cases that I remember being, like, up in bed for nights
It's
afterwards
insane. It's
thinking about that
crazy.
911 call. Yeah.
I mean, they have they came out with a Netflix doc about it afterwards, I think, which I haven't watched. I think because I had done so much research for it, I was like, let me just come down from this case.
Yeah, 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 of course.
I think I split my lip halfway through the episode.
"Oh, baby, no. You're
Oh my
biting
god.
it so hard?"
I don't know what was happening, but I just looked at it and I was like, there's a little red dot.
"Oh, no." Oh, creepers, it's chat lip season. We were just discussing that before we got
We
on.
were. But damn, what an interesting story. I do think at any point, maybe silently, she suspected, even just in the back of her mind, if it was a thought she wanted to bury. Do you think she was like, could it be Steven?
I'm sure. I am sure because I just think like most of us have that inclination to kind of like look at the person that's closest to you and just like even if it's for a split second, just to be like, could it be you? You know, but I think she was like truly when I was reading about when they first met and how they interacted with people in the congregation, like they were like she adored him and like was really, really in love with him.
Mhm.
But I have to imagine if he was having 3 affairs, you're either just, like, turning a blind eye or you know, and you just, like, aren't accepting the reality of that.
I don't know. This guy sounds like a pretty damn good actor. Maybe
Yeah,
he really was covering his ass.
that's true.
Were they Mormon? Do you know?
I was curious about that. I actually
Because
wanted
you
to say
said
that.
elder, and I was
Yeah,
like,
United Church of God.
maybe
I
there
think it
are
is,
other
like, a
elders in
subset.
different, like, yeah.
Let me just see.
Because that would make sense if like divorce is definitely off the table. Divorce is a no go.
It looks
So
like
interesting.
Christian church,
It could just be some strange form of
like,
Christianity,
denomination
maybe.
sort
Yeah,
of.
some strange
Um,
denomination.
let me see.
So interesting.
Super weird, but yeah, former lay oh, he was a former minister too, at the church, but yeah, and now he's rotting behind bars.
Oof. I mean, that definitely puts it into context, that 911 call, which is so interesting because it seems like he was able to fool almost everybody through this process,
Yeah,
even, her, and the investigative team, I guess. But on that 911 call, maybe it's the heat of the moment, but he does seem to read as suspicious to me.
yeah. Oh, yeah, we didn't even go back and think about how odd the 911 call now that you have, like, the full context of it. Um,
It reads as like expected in a strange way.
yeah,
But what's confusing about it is that makes sense for him. It doesn't quite make sense for their child, which is
mhm,
the strange part about this that is kind of like lost in the story, I guess, where I'm like, oh my God, I wonder how much their child knew of what was going on in the home,
yeah,
at least with like mommy's in trouble. There's a bad person who might want to hurt mommy. So we have to like be really safe and we have to lock all the windows and doors and we're getting security cameras or whatever it is or whatever
mhm,
security system they had. I'm just I feel like we'll never know, but I'm so interested in what those family conversations were like,
yeah, or if they just kept him entirely in the dark,
which they might have, to be
which I
honest.
if I had to guess, I would think that they probably did that, but I don't know. I also just think that the "Are you gonna remarry?" thing is really weird because that to
It's
me
weird. It's weird.
indicates that you, like, know about the concept of, like, the prospect of mommy and daddy not being together at some point anymore.
Yeah, like maybe there were fights going on inside the home.
Yeah,
Like kids
yeah,
do pick up on that kind of stuff, even
yeah,
when they're really, really young. I'm not sure how
totally.
old he was when he was adopted, but I don't know. So
Yeah,
strange.
yeah, and it's just so sinister now to think about him laughing like that because it's almost like, "Oh, thank you, son. You just asked me the perfect question to, like, kind of solidify my
Yeah, it was, like, almost too on the nose, and I think that's maybe where the
where the laughter came from."
yeah, like,
Yeah,
he dropped his guard for just a split second or something. It's so sinister.
it's so weird, but that's it, baby. That is
Oh,
and I know that's kind of a different vibe for us to kinda go down the dark web route and
true
but
conspiracy case.
yeah, very
Whoa.
conspiracy. Yes, very, very conspiracy, but, creepers, thank you so much for joining us for another Friday episode. I hope you have a
Whew.
lovely weekend, not perusing anything salacious on the internet, nothing with the dark web babies. Please
Stay
stay
on the
away.
surface web. If the FBI contacts you, take it seriously,
Take it
and
seriously.
always blame your husband.
Exactly, exactly, babies. But
God, I
with
feel for
that
that family.
I
My
know, I
gosh.
know. I, uh, I am just so glad that the jury was able to see through all of the BS, like, very
Me
quickly,
too.
because sometimes, like, when you get somebody that's in a position of power in, like, a religious setting, they can really dial
Mhm.
that up, and, I was very thankful that they made sure to
Subtext of that is cult leader, by the
Yes,
way.
yeah, sorry.
A religious person with sway. I was like, that's a cult leader.
That's a cult leader, baby. You know what I was thinking we should talk about sometime, and then
What?
we'll wrap this up. Did you ever watch the Nexium documentary?
No, when did it come out?
It came out, I think, like 3, 4 years ago. But
It's
like the
called
cult,
Nexium?
it's well, the cult was called Nexium, but the
I don't think
maybe
I've
I'll
ever heard
save
of
that
this.
for a.
Wait, I've never heard of this.
Well, I think you'd find it really interesting because it was like a cult leader that basically a lot of actors ended up getting into the cult. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but like one of the girls
Oh,
from Seventh Heaven was famously in it, but he basically tricked people into thinking that they were part of this like greater like intellectual leadership group, like almost like a Illuminati or a um group of like enlightened people.
not the
And
bootleg Illuminati. Nothing
baby,
would break my spirit more as a celebrity as not getting invited into the actual Illuminati, but the bootleg
the
Illuminati.
bootleg Illuminati, baby. Bootleg, and also like they had like ceremonies where they'd get like sashed, like it was a whole thing. But that's a really I should do a deep dive on that case because it's
Like,
freaking
I don't
nuts.
know anything about it, to be honest.
Okay, I will.
Whew.
Well, baby, that's it. That's it on the Amy Allwine case, and I just want to say thank you so much for listening to that and going through that with me.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
And thank you to the creepers. And I guess with that, I'm gonna say goodbye.
And good luck.
Bye, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye, guys.